Good morning, colleagues, members of the Telkom Retirement Fund and Telkom Pension Fund. Welcome to this session today. Today we want to take you through the options and implications for those people who consider to taking a VSP and VERP. We will, on the panel today, I've got myself, Koos Fourie, who is the Chair of the Communications Committee. We also got Gomotso, the Principal Officer, with us. We've got Bram from Telkom Remuneration, and then also from INFund Solutions. I think some of you has dealt with these people from INFund who we have contracted to advise our members. And from INFund today on the panel is Martin Kieft. He will deal with the questions. I think what is also important is that the view of the panel participants for the Telkom Retirement Fund are not constructed in financial advice, but sharing the TRF members' options at a voluntary early retirement and voluntary severance in terms of the rules of the pension and retirement fund. I think it's important that people need to take note of this. And then the INFund advisor, Mr. Martin Kieft, is an authorized financial service provider joining us in the studio today. And financial advice needs to be provided on a one-to-one basis and not in an open forum. So what we're actually saying to you in this disclaimer is what we share with you today is not financial advice. That you need to contact the financial advisors and your financial advisor, or if you do not have one or you want to have some other viewpoints, please contact the people from INFund. At the end of the slide, we will make the contact details available, or you can just contact us at the TRF and we will provide the information there on where to contact and who's the correct persons to contact. Right, I think let me hand it over to Gomotso. He will deal with the presentations on that, and we can share amongst ourselves on what we want to share with you today regarding the VSP VERPs.
Thank you, Koos. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As the chairman has already advised, today we're here to tell you your options in relation to the TRF, how that ties in with your package that you'll get from the severance package that you'll receive from the company. Let's just jump straight into it. For employees that are younger than 50 years old, they can take a voluntary severance package. But it's also important to note that for members that are younger than 50 years old, they can retire in the TRF and receive a monthly pension. Everybody else, all employees who take a voluntary early retirement package that are 50 years and above, anybody that's over 50 years can then take an early retirement package for members that are in the TRF. And then for members that are in the Telkom Pension Fund, they must be 55 years and older to take a voluntary early retirement package. We have on the screen here just to explain the 500,000 Rand tax-free and which component of your severance is taxed in what matter. The severance pay, this is your lump sum, the 2 weeks pay for every 1 year of service or whatever the company has agreed, or your notice pay. That's the severance package. That is included in your 500,000 Rand lifetime tax-free allocation. Everything else, notice pay, your telephone rebate, your leave credits, etc., that will be taxed as your normal, that will be taxed as per your normal marginal tax rate. It is important to remember that the company, for those that their VSPs will be, or the package will be accepted, the company will apply to SARS for a tax directive. The lump sum portion, that is the severance pay, that will, if that is below 500,000 Rand, for example, let's say that is 300,000 as your lump sum package, That means you only have 200,000 Rand left from your retirement fund that will be used as part of your 500,000 Rand tax-free allocation. On the screen there, we have highlighted the different tax rates applicable. So between 0 to 500,000 Rand, as I've already mentioned, that's tax-free. But remember, this is over your lifetime, and SARS will take into account any previous lump sum benefits that you've taken from either retirement fund or a previous package, or etc. Between 500,000 and 700,000 Rand, it is the tax applicable is 18%. Between 700,000 and just over 1 million Rand, 36,000 Rand plus 27% of taxable income above 700,000. Above 1 million, for 1 million and above, that's the last category. It's 130,000 a bit plus 36% of taxable income above a million Rand. Just remember, the 500,000 Rand is over your lifetime. If you receive a package at Telkom, you use up that 500,000 Rand, you go work at another company, you are employed at another company. When you resign or when you retire ultimately at that company, you will be fully taxed as per the applicable percentages above the 500,000 Rand tax-free limit. I think I've covered on that. Oh, it's important to note for members that are on the Telkom Pension Fund, the Telkom Pension Fund is a public sector fund. There is a pre-1998 transfer or pre-1998 balance that remains tax-free. That amount for some members was transferred to the Telkom Retirement Fund. That will be an additional tax-free option, provided that your tax affairs are in order and you do not have any challenges with SARS. VSP example, because I think I'm going to ask you to assist me here.
Okay, no, that's fine. On what we did here is just to make an example. Say for instance, if a person, there you can see the member's age is 56, the VSP severance benefit, and remember we said the severance part is the weeks that you get. It doesn't include your notice pay. That is 600,000 Rand, and then the TRF value is 3 million Rand. The opening tax-free balance is that 150,000 Rand. Remember, this is the one where Khomotso was speaking about when we were transferred from the Telkom Pension Fund to the Telkom Retirement Fund. There was an opening balance that is also not included, but it's part of the. Let me rather rephrase. The 150 is additional to the 500,000 that you will get as part of your tax-free benefit. So what we did here is to say that the severance part will be calculated according to the 500,000 tax, and then from there on it's the 18%, as Khomotso explained. What is also then important is that you may, for those people who joined after or before 1 September 2009, may purchase a life annuity from the Telkom Retirement Fund. Those that have joined after 1 September 2000 will not have the option to buy from the Telkom Retirement Fund. But what we did in the meantime is that we has now institutional living annuities, two products from Alexander Forbes, and Martin will explain them later, as well as one from Sanlam, where you can then buy those two living annuities, or you can go and buy one from an external provider. What is also important is, and we're going to explain later the other options that is also available, that you can defer if you over 50, or you can preserve if you're younger than 50. So nobody forces you to say you need to buy a pension, and we'll also explain going further why it's so important that you actually need to delay, and why there is a retirement age of 65, and therefore one needs to work towards that before you decided to take a package or retire within the fund. Okay, yeah, I think this one is the VSP example. Remember the one was the VERP. So this is a VSP example where a person is 45 years old. The severance part is 600,000. The TRF is 3 million, And then also the opening balance that was carried over from the Telkom pension fund is 150,000. Here is also what you say, you can take 1/3 in cash, or a portion that you can take in cash, but you will then also be taxed on that portion on the first 100,000 on 80%, 350,000 on 27, and the balance you can then preserve within a TRF. We'll also later explain exactly how the preserve option is how do you go about doing the preserve option, and then also transfer to an approval pension fund preservation fund. So you don't have to always preserve within a TRF. You can take it out and preserve it in any other preservation fund from an external provider. And the same is also applicable, as Gemotso said in the beginning, that you may buy a pension from the Telkom retirement fund if you joined before 1 September 2009. But one must also understand that the younger you are when you buy a pension, the more expensive a pension is. And we will also later in the slides allude to that fact, that it costs you more. So what it boils down to is, if you've got $1 million and you want to buy a pension, the amount that you will buy to have a monthly pension will be much lower on your older age, and that's all about longevity. So the older you are, the cheaper your pension becomes. So that one must also take that in consideration. Okay.
Thank you, Chris. Now, as a retiring member, these are the important questions, or an important slide for you. These are for employees that are above 50 years and from 55 from the TPF. What sort of pension are you going to buy? And we will touch on it in the next few slides, as Koos has highlighted. You need to check how long is that pension going to last me. That speaks to the longevity risk. Will that pension be keeping up with inflation? That is the annual pension increase that the fund has. Does it have a spouse's pension? Are there any capital guarantees involved in that pension that you need to consider as a retiring member? So in the TRF, for all employees that are employed prior to 1 September 2009, you have the option of purchasing a pension in the fund. Step number 1, it's payable and guaranteed for your life. There's an annual pensioner increase policy that the trustees have adopted, which is between 70% and 100% of inflation, subject to affordability. There's a spouse's pension that is paid to your surviving spouse when the pensioner dies. The default is 50%. However, employees or retirees can choose a lower pension payable to the spouse. However, in that instance, the spouse then needs to write an affidavit or a note to the fund advising that they agree and consent to them receiving a lower pension. The higher the percentage that you want your surviving spouse to earn after your death, it will have an impact on your initial pension. If you want your spouse upon your death to receive 100% of your pension, it will have an impact on the initial pension that you receive from the fund. For certain categories of employees, there's a lump sum, there's a death benefit of 10,000 Rand that's available to retirees of the Telkom Retirement Fund. And there's also, very important, a capital guarantee. A capital guarantee works in the following manner. If I retire today as a member above 50 or 55 in the Telkom Pension and Retirement Fund, I pass away in a year, if I pass away next month, if I do not have a capital guarantee in a traditional annuity product, I lose out all my accumulated savings. To repeat, if I retire today, I take my entire benefit from the Telkom Retirement Fund, I purchase a pension from Sanlam, from a life pension from Sanlam, Old Mutual, Allen Gray, whoever the service provider may be, and I do not purchase a guarantee, a capital guaranteed period. I pass away the following month after receiving 1 or 2 payments, the insurance company will then score. In the TPF, in the Telkom Retirement Fund, it is slightly different. This is already built in. Exactly the same example. I purchase a pension from the fund, 1 or 2 payments I receive as a pensioner. I pass away. There's a calculation that is called determining a positive difference, which will then be paid to my nominated beneficiaries or dependents if I do not have a spouse. So I have heard employees who assume that on their death, the Telkom Retirement Fund keeps the money. That's incorrect, because if you do have surviving dependents, if you pass away during the capital guaranteed period, whatever is left over will then be payable to your nominated beneficiaries or your spouse's beneficiaries, or if there's no beneficiaries nominated, it will then be paid to the estate of the last surviving spouse. It is also important, when you are determining what sort of pension you are going to receive, to ask the service provider what is the bonus history for the last 20 years, which the Telkom Retirement Fund is able to provide. What is the pensioner increase history for the last 20 years? It's important to determine those, as it will determine the quality of life that you are going to live post-retirement. Just to make an example of what delaying your retirement from the TRF, I think we also need to mention here that you need to separate the two. Exiting the company is a completely different, it's completely different from exiting the fund. You can leave Telkom via a VSP or a VERP. However, you can leave your benefits in the fund. Later on, when you are now ready to retire and start drawing from your savings, you can then come to the TRF. We've just made an illustrative example of a member who wants to earn 5,000 rands a month. He's a married gentleman with a wife who's 4 years younger. He has selected a default of 50% for his spouse's pension, and we know that our pensioner increase policy is between 70 and 100%. If you leave at age 50, if you exit now at age 50, for you to earn a pension of 5,000 rands, you need just above 1 million rands to earn 5,000 rands. If you delay it by 5 years, you will then need a lump sum of 967,212 to earn the same 5,000 rand pension. If you delayed for another 5 years to age 60, it will cost you 889,755 to have 755 rand to have a 5,000 rand monthly pension. What this illustrates to you is that the older you get, or the closer you get to retirement age, the cheaper it costs you, the lump sum component, it costs you to have to buy a monthly pension. And that makes sense. Why? Because the closer you get to retirement age, let's face it, from 65, if you're lucky, you will get another 30 years or 25 years or 30 or 20 years as it may be. However, the closer you are to the eventuality of death, the cheaper it is for insurance companies to pay you a pension, because they know you likely not to live very long. So you will not have a massive impact on their reserves. So it goes without saying, and it's very intuitive. The younger you are, the more it's going to cost you to buy a pension. The older or the closer you are to retirement age, the less it will cost you. Okay. Right, this applies to employees who are above the age of 50, who retire from service, i.e. exit through a package, but do not retire from the fund. What will then happen is that you will become a deferred retiree. There is no cash withdrawal allowed. The rules of the fund allow you to become a deferred member. You will remain invested in the market according to your specific portfolio. And it's also important to remember that there's a distinction between retirement from the fund and retirement from the company. The two are mutually exclusive events. Please do not confuse the two exits from the fund or the company. You can exit the company but remain on the fund as a deferred retiree. And what we're trying to do is so that the pension that you are ultimately going to purchase one day becomes cheaper for you. And hopefully with the correct investment returns, you will then have accumulated a substantial benefit the day that you decide to start to annuitize your benefit. I think I've touched on these. How does it, if once you're a deferred retiree, what will happen to your benefit or your fund credit? As I said, it will remain invested. You are allowed to switch, but remember, from the fourth switch, a switching fee of I think 450 rand, 450, 250. Okay, we'll confirm, but I know there's a switching fee from the fourth switch that you make. No further contributions are allowed because the employer-employee relationship has been terminated, but you remain a member of the fund. You will continue to have online access to the momentum system, i.e. you can see your benefit growth. Your benefit will be debited with a nominal administration fee and other management fees. The administration fee is less than 30 rands per member per month. If you are considering taking your benefit out to a preservation fund, you need to compare these fees. The management fees that we are referring to are asset management fees, and in your instance as a deferred retiree, these will be not too exorbitant, as you will be part, or your benefit will remain investment as the other active members. Therefore, we retain the economies of scale and the bulk or the bargaining power of a large fund. Just remember, before you transfer your benefits to an external service provider where you will be paying individual fees of administration, management fees, platform fees, investment fees, etc., please make a comparison of what is it going to cost you on a monthly basis should you exit the TRF. A deferred retiree, you remain in the TRF as currently. The only difference is you do not make ongoing contributions, and you cannot access cash. If you want to access cash, you have to annuitize at that point. What does that mean? If you take any money, it doesn't have to be the maximum 1/3. Then you have to purchase a pension with the balance. That's just the way the law is set up. I think I've touched a little bit on how does a deferred member is treated, or how a deferred member is treated. Same options apply as in when you ultimately retire. You'll still have access to 1/3 cash, and the balance, as I mentioned, will need to be used to purchase a pension. When you do come back, remember the 500,000 rand tax-free limit applies over your lifetime. If your package that, or the severance that you receive from the company pushes you up to the maximum 500,000 rand, any cash that you receive after that will push you to the tax that's applicable to the different parameters, 500, 700, 700 to I think 1 million and 1 million and above. I think it's 18, 27 and 36. Any cash that you take will push you up to a higher tax. Just remember that. If you pass away after retirement from service, but before retirement from the fund, it is assumed that you had elected to retire the day before your death. Your spouse will be given exactly the same options as you would have had, i.e. she can take 1/3 cash, the balance she must use to purchase a pension, but she will definitely be consulted. If no surviving spouse is available, or there's no surviving spouse, then the full benefit will be paid to your nominated beneficiaries. If there's no nominated beneficiaries, it will then be paid to your estate, where the executor will determine who gets what. If there is no claim on your estate after 30 years, it is then transferred to the Guardian's Fund, and that goes to the government. From that point on, I'm not sure what happens.
Just on this, what is very important and why we actually encourage people to look at this defer option. If you do not want to buy a pension now, the fact that you defer it within a pension in the Telkom retirement fund just gives you another option where if you want to, and specifically for those people who joined before 1 September 2008, those people will have an option to buy will have an option to buy from the Telkom retirement fund. So that option will always be available if you defer within the fund, but you can also take your money out. But the moment that you take your money out and you defer it in another fund, then you cannot come back to the fund and buy from the fund. So that's why I think it's very important that you need to, when you want to defer, consider this option and just give you more options on the day that you want to decide to retire.
Thank you, Gus. The advantages of deferring, this is just an illustrative example on the same 1 million rand package, on the same 1 million rand that you have in your fund. In the previous example, the member had left at age 50. The pension that was payable was, I think, was just above 500,000 rand, 5,000 rand before tax. In this instance, we're showing you that we assume that your money will grow by 5% per annum. At age 60, the pension that you would anticipate to earn or to be paid is 6,500, just almost 6,600. At age 65, it goes up to 8,421, and at age 70, it increases to 10,748. And what all this is showing is that by deferring your retirement to a later date, you are potentially lining yourself up to have a higher pension because of the longevity risk that insurers carry, or the calculations that they use. Same example, in this instance, we assume that your money will grow by 7.5% per annum. At age 60, you will get 8,000 rands. At age 65, 12,000. And age 70, you will get 20,000 rands. As mentioned earlier on, longevity plays an important role in determining the amount of pension that you are going to receive and for how long. Right, if you want other options, as we said, you can transfer to a pension preservation fund, but remember to check the fees, the cost, what exactly are you getting yourself into, and these are all tax-free, by the way. You can transfer to a RA for members that are younger than 50, or you can transfer to your new employer's fund, or you can become, for members that are younger than 50, you have the option to preserve your benefit in the Telkom Retirement Fund. So you should compare the living annuity option for members that are younger than 50 and the preserved fees and options for members that are in the TRF. When members exit, there's no, if you become a preserved member, you preserve the full benefit, there's no tax payable. If you do you become a preserved member, at that point, I need to emphasize this, at that point you can take cash, okay? And then the balance is preserved. You cannot come back at another, maybe 2 years down the line and say, oh, I need another 10,000 rands to live off or for emergency. When you come back, the full benefit must be taken at that point. And the applicable tax, the withdrawal tax tables will then apply. Okay, I just need to correct that one. That's an error. The rules of the fund were changed in the previous year. Once you're a preserved member, you need to take out the benefit. You need to take out cash at the point you become a preserved member. Any subsequent withdrawals, you need to take out the full benefit. Okay, you cannot come back and take out, can I have a third of my money or 2/3 or whatever it is. You can retire from age 55 and your options will be exactly the same as a retiree, i.e. 1/3 cash, subject to where you are in terms of the tax-free or the tax tables. The balance must be used to purchase a pension, and Martin on my left will talk to what sort of pensions or options that we have in the fund. That if you are if you pass away as a preserved member, your benefit will be paid out to your beneficiaries as a death benefit to them. At this point, I'll hand over to Martin from INFund to take us through the annuities that the fund has put in place for its members. Thank you.
Good morning. So, Komotso already spoken to you about the life annuity within the fund. The trustees of the TRF also decided to put these institutional living annuities in place. So there's effectively two living annuities outside of the fund, which is institutional living annuities. It's important to note this is much cheaper than what you'll get in the retail market when you go directly to a Allan Gray or an Investec. On the institutional living annuity, for example, at Alexander Forbes, you can split your benefit between two different funds, which is the high growth fund from Alexander Forbes as well as the conserver. There's different costs involved on those two portfolios. The high growth charges a fee of 0.7%. A similar balance fund in the retail market will cost you in the region of 1.5% to 2%. On the conserver, the fees are 0.6%. And then there's also, you can do a combination between the high growth and the conserver. So you can choose any percentage, 60% high growth, 40% conserver, or any other combination. Your administration fees that you pay works on a sliding scale. the sliding scales we've put in place here. On the first million, you would pay 0.38%. On the next 1.5 million, you would pay 0.21%, and on the next 5 million, 0.17%. So it's also very aggressively the administration fees if you compare it with the retail platforms out there. If you look at the Sanlam option, it's the progressive bonus fund that they use there. It's managed by 24/7. It's got an underlying capital guarantee on 80%, and it's supposed to give you a monthly bonus to smooth out the returns, and that monthly bonus can never be negative. If you look at the cost on the smooth bonus, it's a bit more expensive because you pay for that underlying guarantee. So the management fee is 0.7%, the product fee is 0.3%, and then your guarantee fee is another 0.7%. The sliding scales on the administration is 0.15 on the first 2 million, and then 0.1% after that. Now INFund, I'm an INFund panel advisor, so what INFund does is they will give you all the different options. They would give you a complete planning document, and that planning document will set out what the life annuity would be, what your tax would be on your severance package or your voluntary exit package. It would also show you the different options if you prefer not leaving the money with the TRF, but rather going for one of the approved institutional living annuities, what the different costs is on that living annuities, and they would do cash flows to show you what type of income you can expect. The important thing on a living annuity, you must just remember there is no guarantee in capital here. So you decide on your own income level between 2.5% and 17.5%, and the underlying portfolios perform according to what the market does in that specific portfolio. And when you die, that full benefit is transferred to your nominated beneficiary. So there's all, depending on the capital value when you die, if your spouse inherits, they would have a choice to then decide on the percentage drawdown rate on that living annuity. So yes, you must make use of that service to get INFund to do a planning document for you, and then they can also put you in touch with one of their panel advisors if you need further advice on one of these products.
Okay, thanks Martin. Yeah, there is the contact details from the INFund team. As you can see, there's an email address, there's telephone numbers. So please, I think it's very important, we said it in the beginning also, that to make an informed decision, I mean it's a huge step that you're going to take when you decided to take the offer from the company. So therefore, please, and I know there's only a few days left, but try and get the information that you need, and make then an informed decision on your future, because this will have a definite impact on your future going forward. If you make a wrong decision, unfortunately there's no turn back. So therefore, make use of that. This is the reason why from the fund side we have contracted INFund, and that is the work that they needs to do for us as the fund. Okay, I think what we do now is we're going to go through the questions. Just see there below also is the TRF contact details. If we do not cover all the questions today, what we'll do is we'll also draw up a question and answer session out of the questions that we don't deal with now. But also, Robin Koot has also joined us. He will also, if there's some questions coming from you, that he can also share with us regarding that. He's also a trustee on the fund. I think let's start with the questions. Okay, first there's a question, will this be archived to review the content? Yes, it will be archived. Victor promises that he will do it. So hopefully by close of business today it will be available. Then the next question is, if my VSP is under 500k and my pension is 900k, how will I be taxed on the pension? I think Komotso went through the sliding scales. I don't know if you quickly want to touch on that again to say, because it says my VSP 500, my pension is 900. How will I be taxed on my pension?
I think they need to separate which portion of the VSP. Is it the severance or is it the total amount? As we said earlier on, the severance pay, not the total, not excluding your leave, excluding your, what else is there? It's leave, forget bonuses, or I can't remember what the other parameter.
Leave and notice pay.
Leave and notice pay. Yeah. So that lump sum portion, that forms part of your 500 tax-free amount. Okay, so that takes care of the VSP question. Then the other question was, in your fund you have 900,000 rand. Depending on how much your lump sum portion is, so 2 weeks pay for every year worked under 10 years, how much is that? If that is 300,000 rand, that means from the fund you can only take 200,000 rand to maximize your 500,000 lifetime tax-free portion. Anything above that will be taxed at the marginal tax rate. So between 500 and 700,000 rand, it's taxed at 18%. And I think from 700,000 to 900 or so, to $1 million rand, it's $1,050,000, it's 27%, and anything above $1 million is at 36%.
Yeah.
Okay, so it depends on how much you're taking out of the fund.
Yeah, and I think also to that point, if you want to withdraw all your money, you can pay up to 1/3 of that money you can pay towards tax. So I think it's very important that people need to consider or make an informed decision when it comes to withdrawing money on those tax tables. Then the question was also asked, living annuity, do you lose your money if you pass away and have beneficiary nominated? I think I'm also touch on that one. What is important to note is that in the Telkom retirement fund, you never lose your money. If you've got a spouse, your spouse will then draw the pension that you've, in the beginning, remember you can choose between 50 and 100% for your spouse's pension. She will then carry on with that. If she then passes away, the balance will then be paid out to your nominees or to your estate if you don't have nominees. So in the Telkom retirement fund, living annuity, you never lose your money. All right, the next question is the penalty of 4% per annum applicable to my pension payout if I leave earlier than my pensionable age, as I am a member of the Telkom pension fund?
Correct.
Okay, so you on this one,
penalization remains. The company has not indicated that they'll waive the penalty. So the penalization, as the statutes of the fund, will be applicable.
Right, thanks, Komotso. Then there's another one. Hi, if I take 100% of my pension monthly amount, will my pension last until age 90 or will my pension run out of money? I'm now 58 years old. Alan. Thanks, Alan.
Yeah, I think that's why we have the people like Martin in place. Your question touches on life annuity, living annuity. I think contact INFund, because they will then take you through your options. INFund has been appointed precisely for questions like this. How long will my pension last? What sort of pension do you want? Do you want a living annuity where you control how much you take out per month, or do you want a life annuity? If you want a life annuity from the fund, as it says, it's life. It will last until you're dead. Do you want a spouse's pension included? Then when you pass on, your spouse will get a pension depending on whatever you choose, 50%, 30% of your monthly pension. But the important thing is INFund has been appointed for precisely this sort of purpose.
Thank you, Komotso. Yeah, I think what is important when you talk Telkom retirement fund, for those people who can buy a living annuity from the Telkom retirement fund, that will last you till you pass away or till your spouses pass away. But for the rest, you need to manage that, and therefore, as Gemotso was alluded to, the INFund is there, which can do the calculations on the living annuities, and that where they can also take you through on how do you need to manage that if you want to have it for a certain period. The next question is, can a deferred retiree after the deferred period withdraw 1/3, or is the withdrawal nullified because of the deferment?
I think the question is clear, but as a deferred retiree, you are forced to annuitize. As soon as you take any money outside of the fund, you have to buy a pension. So you can take 1/3 maximum, and the balance must be used to purchase a pension at that point. You can't take 1/3 and then not buy a pension or not replace your income. I think it's the Income Tax Act that requires you to annuitize.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so just on that, the third can be taken later if you do defer. The third and the 2/3 remain applicable if you defer to retirement.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think that is the question is, can a deferred retire after the deferred period withdrawal wonder? So then it's actually a normal pension. That's why I was saying, I think it's very important when you want to defer it within a Telkom retirement fund. It just gives you more options. If you take it out, then you can't move it around when you're out of the fund. The next question is on deferred. Does the deferred pension grow even if I do not put money in it? Okay.
Yes, your money remains invested.
Okay. Yeah. As Gemotso was explaining, you still have the option. You go into the Momentum website. You can still move around in the portfolios. As I said, the only is that there is no contribution. But if there's growth, specifically on a month, it gets declared as it was in the past. So yes, it still grows. What do I do if I want to retire abroad? An example, moving to Australia. Do I take my pension here or buy one there?
Well, I'm sure Martin will come in, but I think your exchange control limits will then need to kick in at that point.
Yeah, as soon as you retired and annuitized, if you're in the living annuity, that money can't be taken out again. And the same would apply on the life annuity as well within the fund. So if you don't commute 100% of your benefit, you will be stuck with a pension in South Africa if it's in the living annuity. You can, however, draw the maximum of 17.5% and then take the money offshore. That you can do, but then you would quickly deplete the value of the living annuity. But there's no other way of getting the money into a pension offshore.
Okay, thanks, Martin. Yeah, and there are currently pensioners which lives overseas withdraw a pension from the Telkom retirement fund. So if you buy within a Telkom retirement fund, your money you can draw a pension if you're overseas. So that does not stop you if you go overseas. Then when are we going to get our TPF pension statement, as if the calculations determined on a plus 5 year inclusive or just on a current years of service, including the penalties of the 4% per annum earlier?
Okay. Right. Look, you will get comparative statements to show you what your enhanced value is to transfer to the TRF, as we've done previously. What you are asking is to see what the impact is of you retiring early and the penalty that's applicable as per the statutes. That is an individual request. That must be sent to me or the company. As a matter of fact, this query is very familiar. I think we're dealing with it at the moment.
Okay.
Sorry, you'll get statements this week, but these statements will not show you the penalty that will be applicable. As I said, this is a individual request. What you will get is statements that show the enhanced value or the enhancement to offer employees to transfer to the TRF. That we'll get this week.
Okay. Thanks, Mocho. Then there's another one. Morning team, if I do not take a package now and the company retrenches me in 6 months, what is the financial complications when they retrench? Thanks,
Right.
Robin. Yeah, look, unfortunately, nobody, I mean, a retrenchment, if there's any retrenchment, then there's also a package coupled to that. But I think what I always say to people, remember, if you're in the fund, you still participate in the growth of the fund. So the longer you're in the fund, the longer you will participate in the growth of the fund. I think that is the essence of to be part of the fund. There's another one on tax. What is the tax implications when you take the lump sum? I'm not sure if that's deferred to the 1/3, but I think we've explained that a few times now, and it will also be made available in the slides. The different tax scales that there is if you withdraw money, and as I said, what we also said, it's one in a lifetime applicable. There's another one that says, are you able to pay a lump sum into your TRF at any time if you defer your pension at 51 years of age till 60? No, unfortunately, there's no, you can't pay money into the lump sum. What is in there will grow as the market grow until you decided to retire or in the fund or take it out of the fund. If you are under 50, can you take out the full pension in cash? And if you are over 50, can you do the same? Robin?
So yes, you can take the money out, but remember, the first 500,000, there's special tax dispensation and on the sliding scale. But remember that in the 2/3, if you leave it in the fund, it's not taxable. If you take out the 3/3 or the whole amount is taxable. And if you look at that computation, it could end up that up to 30% of your total lump sum could be subject to tax. So in this case, it's always better that you limit your cash out to the 1/3 and always preserve the 2/3 in some form of retirement fund or annuity or whatever the case.
Thanks, Robin. Okay, then there's another question. How is my monthly pension calculated on the day of retirement or deferred with respect to my age? Will it make a huge difference to defer it until I am exactly 60 or instead of 59 and 7 months? I know it will most probably grow a bit in the remaining 5 months.
Sure, I think that's quite a complex question. What's the pension that you? I think that's the question. How is it calculated? Well, there's annuity factors. And Martin, please step in if I lose it here. There's annuity factors that I looked at. Your age count. Do you have a spouse? How old is the difference between the two spouses? What PRI factor is used by the fund or externally, and then as well as how much is your lump sum? I think currently for a 5,000 rand pension, you're looking at 1 million rand. So you can then do the multiple. Okay. And then what will also affect it is how much you take out. The 1/3, do you take the full 1/3 or do you take a portion or you do not take anything at all?
Yeah. So Chris, just to add on that, if we look at members' lump sums currently, or the members' share when you get your statement, just remember that let's say it's a million rand. And growth is then earned on R1 million. It's important that 1% growth on R1 million is quite a sum of money because it starts compounding. So it's always better to leave your money in the fund for as long as possible because it has two effects. Number one, it grows, so your fund and your pension becomes more. And then because you're closer to let's call it death or demise, the life expectancy table then computes your monthly pension over a shorter period. So you have what they call a double effect, whereby your life shortens, but also the growth on a very large amount, because the higher your amount becomes, your member share, a 1% or 2% or even a 10% growth on that amount is quite significant. So members must always remember that the sooner you take that money out, you lose that compounding effect of a growth on a bigger member share. And I think that's a very important point, and that is why deferral, as long as possible, is absolutely in the best interest of the member.
Oh, thanks, Robin. I think it's very important, and I think that is to the question also. And I think that also speaks to that other question on retrenchments and what is the financial impact. The fact of the matter is, when you're in the fund, your money can grow. If you're not in a fund, your money can't grow. If you decided to buy a pension, then you're out. So I think it's important that one needs to look at it in that way. There's another one that says, let's say you got 1 million in the TRF. If you pull a pension straight away and you are 50 years old and get a monthly pension, then when you reach 60 years old, your yearly pension increase that is linked to the inflation, what will that graph look like? And that's from Robert. And if you want to respond to that one, I think, and we actually said that we want to make sort of a comparison regarding that. But I think to that point, it all depends on what is the increases that will be given over that period. So as you would say, if you decided to take a pension on 50 from the Telkom Retirement Fund, remember we can only talk to the Telkom Retirement Fund. Then if there's the growth and you get your between 70 and 80% increase on a yearly basis, and then that will determine how your pension will increase if you take up a pension. If you leave it within a fund, what will determine how your pension is growing is what happened within a market. So the two sort of go hand in hand. It's an interesting comparison, but I don't think it's as straightforward as it looked like. I don't know, Robin, if you want to.
Yeah, I think it talks to the point made earlier, where the longer you leave it in the fund, the higher the pension. And I do think one of the slides tries to demonstrate that if you defer to age 50, 55, 60, 65, the difference in how that pension will pay out as an illustrative example. So please consult the slides. I think on one of the latter slides it does try and illustrate the point. But here again, get your information from the administrator, phone INFund Solutions, and they will probably be able to do that bespoke calculation for you on your amount and do a simulation to that effect.
Thanks, Robin. Then there's another one. Is there a time gap on how long I should defer my fund before I can take a decision to exit the TRF?
No. There's no time limit. There's no pressure.
Yeah,
but we would appreciate if you do tell us that you want to defer, preserve, rather quickly, and ideally before you're age 65.
Yeah. And that also to the point, you need to be older than 55.
Correct.
Buy pension. Yeah. Okay. Then there's one, Bram, I think this one is more for you. What is the difference between the 14 tax percentage and the package tax? How long years does rebate take on a mobile data or VSP VERP? Maybe let's take it, because I see this person has asked 5 questions. So let me rather take it one by one. What is the difference between the 14 check tax percentage and the package tax?
Thank you, Chris. The 14th check is taxed as normal income, so it's got nothing to do with your VSP VERP. I also want to allude or say to you guys that there is a question and answers on ESS that deals with all the benefits and the retirement benefits that you get when you take a VERP from the company side. So go and consult that Q&A on ESS as well.
Okay, then there's also one that says, how is Telkom partaking in the social 40,000 assistance?
We just give you 40,000 rand cash that will also be taxed, and then you can actually use that money for further investments or studies or whatever you please to do with that money.
Thanks, Bram. And then will there be a HR available to talk face to face before we click?
You can consult your HR business partners in the different regions. They can assist you, or you can also contact myself if you need further information.
Okay. Right. There's another one that says, hi, if I take the package, I will take a third of my pension. Am I allowed to take more a month as what is on the benefit statement?
No. As I said, that is the pension that you are realistically looking at receiving based on how much you've saved in the fund. So what you see on the benefit statement is an illustrative example of what you can expect on a monthly basis before tax.
Okay. Yeah, if you take less than a third, that will have an impact on the calculation. But as Gemotso was saying, what is on the statement, that is what you will receive. There's another one. How does a divorce payout affect your 500,000 tax-free benefit?
Sure. Divorce has no impact on the tax-free amount. I don't see how the two would link.
It depends on when you got divorced. So there's certain brackets that you have to look at. But the non-member spouse would have been liable for the tax. Yeah. So it would reduce their sliding scales and not the member sliding scales.
And this would be withdrawal tax tables, not retirement tax tables.
Yeah, depending on the age as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. There's another one that says, will the advisors also offer services in Zulu?
I think they do try.
Sia, who works for INFund, would probably be able to help.
Okay. Let's quickly. Then there's another one. Is the voluntary payments to TRF taxable?
Voluntary payments? I'm not sure.
Okay, I think what
the voluntary, they're talking about the voluntary contributions to the fund. So that's kept separate by the administrator. So that you can take in addition to the 500,000 tax-free, because that's after tax money that you've paid into the TRF.
Okay, then there was a question from Andre de Toy. What about the interest on the opening balance transferred in 1998? I think, Robin, you can respond to that.
So very importantly, the 1998 date that was referred to is when the Tax Act changed. It's also important that when the members that we are in, I think it was 1995, and it moved from the pension fund to the retirement fund, there was that opening balance which remains tax-free, as well as any other fund that was transferred from the any public fund that you brought over. So each one of these numbers, there's not really a date to it. We mentioned 98 because that was when the tax law changed, and we mentioned 1995 because that's in Telkom. If you were part of the TPF, that transfer happened. But each member needs to consult the administrator because each one of us has a different amount, and important that amount is tax-free on top of the 500,000 rand, because it is a transfer from a public fund to the TRF. I think that's a very important point.
Thanks, Robin. And then there's a question, can you please explain again about the 80%, 27 and 36%? But I think that there's a confusion on the I think it's 18. Maybe the 80 was changed to 18, and I think we've put up the slide again. What is important to take note of this is that your first 500 is tax-free. Then the next bracket is 200,000, which is then 27%. is 18%, and then the next one is 27% on the next 350, and then the rest is then taxed on 36%, the balance of it. So but as I said, we'll make the slides available. And what is also important, and I think it's important that people of members of the TRF also to take note, is that the members booklet is also been updated and is also been available on a Momentum website. I think it's, if you want to do yourself a favor, please also go through that booklet, because we also explain the tax tables within that booklet. Yeah. Yes, Robin?
Yeah, Chris, I think a very important point for all our members at this juncture is it is open season now. The VERPs and VSPs are public information. And it's now open season for advisors, agents, people selling life policies, people selling pensions to become involved. These guys would promise you a higher pension than what is probably quoted by the INFund guys or from the retirement fund. But all I'm asking the members is to please be aware, because what could happen is that, yes, it's a higher initial pension, but it's also based on 17.5%, which the Act allows you to draw down on any living annuity, number one. So please ask the right questions. Please be in touch with INFund. Ask the right questions. Also ask how much these products will cost you. Because if this product's going to cost you 3% out there and we earn 8% or 10%, the first 3%, absolute 3% goes to the advisor for costs, and you are left with 6 or 7%. In a year that you make 7 or 8%, 3% goes to the service provider. You sit with 5%, which is less than a cash return. So please don't be fooled by the promises of a double pension, because what that just means is you're eating into your capital. And be very wary and very concerned if the amount is too big or too good to be true, because then it probably is. And that's why I'll urge the members, be very careful when that number gets calculated, and please be in touch with INFund Solutions to avoid any costly mistakes that you will make or may make at this juncture.
Thank you, Robin. I think it's very important from Robin's side what he shares with you. As I said, unfortunately, there's quite a lot of people who will now be there to lend you a hand, but unfortunately sometimes for the wrong reason. So therefore, be aware. Talk to the people that's been appointed by the fund, and that is for that specific reason. There's another question that says, what percentage tax does one pay after retirement on monthly pension? At what stage does one qualify for pensioners tax, and what percentage age is that? You pay normal tax. There's no pensioners tax whatsoever. What there is there's a rebate if you're older than 65 years on your if you claim back and you belong to a medical aid, that rebate it's bigger, and then I think after 70 it's again, but normally you pay normal tax. So what you pay now and what you earn is what you're also going to pay, unfortunately, when you're on pensioners. If you earn a salary, SARS is there to help, also lend you a helping hand. Okay, there's another one. Right, can I take my pension lump sum benefit when accepting the VSP offer under the age of 50 years?
Yep, you're going to pay tax on it.
Yeah, you may.
You may, but subject to applicable tax, yeah?
Yeah. Right. At this stage, is it possible that I can take all my money without purchasing a pension? I think we've alluded to that fact. You may take it all, but remember, you're going to pay up to 1/3 of your pension money towards SARS, because as you will calculate it on the full benefit. Then there's another one. Can the 50% default amount for the spouse be less than 30%? I think Komotso alluded to that in the beginning, that you need to just have a consent from your wife.
Or husband.
Well, depends, yeah, from your spouse on if you want to reduce it by lower than 50%. I think we almost, there's still quite a lot of questions. What we're also going to do regarding that is that we'll go through these questions and also draw up a question and answer. There is some questions that I can see that is more relating to the company. We'll pass these questions to the company because I see this one specifically or quite a few on the UIF. Why is UIF not paying? And I think we'll ask the company to respond to that. Although I think Bram alluded to the fact that in the question and answer there is a specific point that dealt with that. But what we'll do is we'll pass it to the company. There's another one that says, if I got pension from my late husband, will I still qualify for the 500 tax-free?
Yes.
Yes.
That's what I like. It's not a joint limit. Every person has the 500 tax-free. So yes, you will. Yes, you will. Well, hopefully your tax affairs are in order, then you'll get it.
Yeah, it depends on your taxes. Then there's another one that says, if I take a portion of my 1/3, can I take later the balance? Can I take the balance later?
Remember, the 1/3 share is only applicable to people that are over the age of 50. And once you take the 1/3, you have to use the balance to purchase a pension, i.e. replace your salary. So you can't take 1/3 and say, keep the balance for me. At that point, you must start earning a pension. You must purchase a pension.
Okay, thanks for Motso. Then there's another one that says, can I transfer my provident fund to the TRF?
Well, you can, but I don't know why you would want to do that, because the law is possibly going to change where you can't access 100% of your provident fund. It will be like a pension fund. So I would protect the vested rights that I have in the pension, in the provident fund, so that one day when you do retire, you can have access that 100% without any restrictions. You can, but you will lose that 100% withdrawal from the provident section when you get to retirement.
Thanks for Motso. Then there's another one. What will happen if I did not close to purchase a monthly pension? So you choose, if I did not choose to purchase a monthly pension, if I am 57 years and I need all my retirement fund to be paid out direct to my bank. As we said in the beginning, you must remember that you will then be fully taxable, and that can mean that you can pay up to 1/3 of your pension money towards tax. So yeah, you may, but unfortunately SARS is going to take quite a lot of that money.
And I think it's what is your exit reason from the company? You can't be exiting the company due to early retirement, and then at the fund you are resigning or withdrawal. The two exit reasons must talk to each other.
Okay, then yes, one for you, Bram. If I decided to exit the company via the VSP, do I qualify for the 40,000 social plan? And if so, how will it be paid to me?
It will be paid with your severance pay, so it will also be taxed, and you will get the after-tax portion that you can then use to study further or pay towards your kids for their school fees or university fees or whatever you want to do with that portion of the social plan.
Okay, and I think this will be our last question, and then we will respond to these other in a question and answer. This one says, if I'm 49 years now, it is retirement from the fund, right? What is the option then with regards to getting? Then when I am 50, does that then mean that I can go over to retirement within the fund? I'm currently in a division which is going to close, and if there are no other posts available, it is good to take the package now. My TRF is 1.9 million, or is it better option to retrench, and will there be given a package when we are retrenched and when the office closed down?
My goodness.
Yeah, it's quite a complex one.
Chris, if I may answer that by just giving a fact or two. What I would do is start off by contacting Momentum and understanding what does 1.9 buy you in terms of a pension. Rough calculations, for every 1 million, you earn about 4,000 Rand a month pension. So 1.9 may give you 8,000 Rand a month, and you are 50 years old. Is that enough to sustain you until age 90, 95? And you must answer that question for yourself. Everybody needs to make provision for their old days, but then I do understand that everybody's situation differs. People may need the money right now. But I guess, start off by saying, what does 1.9 mean in terms of a pension for you right now? Talk to INFund, get some advice. And as I say, first prize is always to defer retiring as long as possible, but I am also quite aware that everybody's circumstances are different. People may need the money now, but make this decision with all the facts on the table and all the information, also understanding the cost that it will cost you to buy this pension going forward, whether you retire in the fund or take a living annuity within the fund, etc. So we need to understand all the pros and cons and have all the data points before we make a decision in that regard.
Thank you, Robin. All right, I think for this is where we will end for now, as we nearly at 9 o'clock. There is still some questions. As I said, we will do this in a question and answer. And as I said, there's quite a lot questions on the UIF, and we'll pass it on to the company to deal with that part of the question. So from our side and to the panel with me, thanks for your participation, and thanks for everybody's input. Thanks to our members that shared with us this. I see at one stage there were 907 of you that joined us. I think it just shows how important it is to people to get the necessary information. And I think I would just add to what Robin is saying. There's still time left till Friday when you need to make your decision. Please contact these people that is there. If you want to contact more than one person, the more the better, because at the end of the day, this decision will have a detrimental impact on the rest of your life. So make a informed decision. From the fund side, we say thank you for being with us this morning, and see you soon.
Yeah.